Hey guys, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Cheat, thanks for the donation, sir. So kind. I mean a potato. Wait, what? I don't mean JJ. You guys hear everything okay and all that jazz? Whatever. Um, Bae, that girl, you made it. How you had a doctor's appointment, right? Is everything good? Like what kind of a potato? What do you mean? Super eager to hear things you miss. I can't promise I have much, but we'll see. Maybe together we'll notice some things here. Raw potatoes? It's so starchy. Oh my gosh. Like when you like cut potato and then like the starch get like stuck to the blade and like you have to rinse it to cut more potatoes? How do you just eat that? Oh, I'm not actually eating. Oh, well, punished. Now we're just disappointed. Uh, I can hear you knocking on the mic. I'm sorry. It's where it's in my hand fly zone. That's why I always hit the microphone. uh. Oh, it was a follow up for for your knee. So how's everything looking? Oh no. They went with someone else's offer? I'm so sorry. Hand fly zone. All right, I'm really sorry, Bae. You were so excited about that. That sucks. It's tough, like searching for a house. I luckily haven't had to do it, but my sister, I get to hear all the issues revolving around that. I'm pretty sure I missed things, but like you said, we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so it opens up here, and I really like this scene. Okay, first off, let me start this off like we always do. No spoilers past what happens in the show, please, guys. We're going to do our best, as we always try. This one's kind of weird because if you didn't play the game, what actually happened is this was the DLC that we've been talking about. So technically this happens after the full game. But we're going to go with the actual timeline of this. So please no spoilers past this part in the game, but we can talk about the game. Has a huge backyard. That's awesome. Yes, let's talk about it. Part 2 vibes from the scene. Ooh, a little bit. I more saw this. Okay, so this house actually, like, I thought it felt very much like the house in part 1 where Ellie does bring Joel when she's kind of off on her own and you see Joel laying on the mattress. I thought this house matched that pretty well, and the scenery. I didn't think about part 2. But yeah, I like this because it shows that she was dragging Joel and there's blood on the snow. I think that's great because not everyone's, but a lot of people's initial question was, how the heck did Ellie get Joel back on the horse? And she didn't. So I just like it. I think it's a nice detail. It leads right up to the garage, which is also not a great way to hide. Just pointing that out. Yeah, it made me think of where she brings him. Exactly. So let me click. So this is cool, like, because, okay, I'm just going to talk about this for those of you who didn't play. What happens in the DLC is you go back and forth between present time and the past. So everything we see in the mall with Riley is the past, and we go back and forth in a different mall as Ellie looks for supplies to help stitch up Joel. Like, she's looking for a med kit. And it's really cool because you're going back and forth in these two malls in different time frames, and it's really neat. But unfortunately, if you played the game, we had to deal with the fact that we didn't know if Joel was okay for like a long period of time. The injury happens with Joel. It pretty much ends how last episode ends, and then we're left to play Ellie for a bit, and you have no clue if Joel's alive. So you guys had to wait a week for the next episode, but it felt worse in the game because like it felt like the game was continuing without him, and it was really hard to do. I'm not going to be super chatty this time around. I've got to limp around. Oh, no worries, that girl. Still waiting on a call from the ortho. No worries. You should take it easy. Don't be limping around. Don't clean. Forget cleaning. The other thing I thought of is literally telling everyone where you're hiding. Yeah, but also kind of like, what do you do? I guess you could like take a branch and try to like get rid of it, but you know, somebody's bleeding out, so it's not really a priority. Joel has like 5 words in this. He does. Yeah, he hardly had any talking time. Staying focused on the flashback worked really well. Yeah, I like that. I thought in the game it was really neat, though, that dynamic between the two. I don't think that was needed in this, but I think the experience in the game was actually better. That's my take. Like, this was fine, but I liked going back and forth. I thought that was really cool. Okay, so Joel's telling her to leave him. So, again, we find out that Joel's alive. Amazing, crazy, different. But then also, he's saying just to leave him. And I felt like she kind of went through this little phase where she just might do that. But she's fighting internally with herself on this. Family coming over soon. Oh, yeah. Took places in malls. Yeah, that's why it was so cool, because it was like that. It was like a parallel between the past and the present. But like, she's totally panicking here, which is fair. But I think what's kind of interesting is Joel's telling her to leave him. And like that's very Joel, right? Joel, he kind of thought this was going to happen anyways when he was talking to Tommy. And he just kind of had this idea that like, he's going to mess it up anyways. Almost like, hey, you're better off without me, just go. And he's left people too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he knows what you need to do to survive. And I think it's one of those things where it's like loving people and caring about them make it more likely, like it's more dangerous to live that way. And so just like kind of like he had to leave Tess and how you had to leave probably other people in his past, it's kind of like, go leave, you'll be better without me. So I like how she's like arguing with herself internally here. The paramal dimension, yes. I would panic too, and I'm not 16 years old. Yeah, it's scary. I couldn't imagine. So she's 14, Riley's 16. Riley's a little bit older. That's why Riley got to know her Fedra job already, and Ellie doesn't. Okay. I love puns. The more the merrier. Yeah, they didn't kill all the raiders. He's trying to save her. They didn't call the raiders. They're trying to save her. Wait, what? But yeah, he's just saying, leave me here. But then we go to her past, which I liked these scenes. I liked seeing a little bit of Fedra because this gave a little bit of a different light on Fedra that I don't think we got really anywhere in the game. I'm trying to think of a time where like Fedra, we kind of got the feeling that Fedra was trying to do the right things, at least in some cities. And I don't think we ever got that. So we get to learn about like Ellie's schooling and like her upbringing with Fedra. I didn't know Riley's age. Yeah, she says it in this. I don't know if that matches with the game, but she definitely says it in this, that I'm turning 17 in a couple of months, and they told me I'd be on sewer duty or whatever. Oh, they might have pursued. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay. She was obsessed with getting a gun even before meeting Joel. Yeah, and again, I think that kind of calls back to where we were before. Hey, Wasaki. Someone I thought disappeared. Yeah, Wasaki, I actually just went over to YouTube. I haven't disappeared off the internet, just off of Twitch. But yeah, like I think like after we talked about it more, it's more of just a power thing. Like Ellie very much always wants power. And at first I thought it was like she was obsessed with weapons, but no, it's a power thing. It's a being able to defend yourself and not be a kid, even though like every adult is, thinks that it's such a good thing to be a kid, but every kid wants to be an adult and have power and have all that control, I guess. Never really got the feeling about Fedra from the games. Right. So this was a different take, which I liked. I like this different take because to kind of like label all of Fedra just full out like bad it's tough. It's tough to do that with any group or any organization. And there's going to be probably some cities that are better than others, obviously, because we did learn that Kansas City's Fedra was horrific. Yeah, if we are doing the DLC episode, then I'm glad they filled in some. Yeah, same. Like, Fedra is just blunt instrument of martial law, super heavy-handed, but the idea is to keep order. Right. And some of the people that, like, are high up in Fedra, like we find out, actually think they're doing the right thing. They think that, like, without them, that everything will fall apart. So you can understand, like, why... Yeah, some people work for Fedra because, like, first off, it's like, what else are you going to do? Other people do it because, like, if they're higher up, they probably get better benefits of, like, better food and better protection and just kind of power. But then it kind of plays that whole thing about, okay, it doesn't matter who's taking over, right? Whether it's, like, Kathleen's group or the Fireflies. It's like everybody thinks they're doing the right thing, but it doesn't really work for everyone, right? And it humanizes Fedra. Really good point. Yeah, I did like that. Like, I actually liked... I forgot his name. I think I have it. Quan, I think his name is. I liked him. But we meet Bethany, I don't know. I can't remember. It starts with a B. Yes, and she's also a B. But I guess without Riley, it's kind of, I like this because it tells that Riley was kind of Ellie's guardian in a sense at Fedra. But because of that too, Riley got into a lot of trouble, which might have been one of the reasons that she got put on such a terrible job, like, duty for her 17th, like they assign you. And it might have been because she was constantly causing trouble, getting in fights and such. And it might have been just because she was protecting Ellie a lot. So it says a lot about her character. Fedra isn't one tight organization, but rather a loose consortium of copies of itself. Yeah. Differently depending on location. Right. And it's one of those things, it's like, hey, this is what we should do, but then once you're out on your own, we're not going to really be checking in on you. So, like, if things get out of hand, it's like, that's all you. If they have a central command structure, it definitely doesn't I don't think they do. It would be too hard to maintain any type of order like that. If you don't have Fedra, then you're just hoping people aren't a-holes, but humans aren't greatly, honestly. On their own, maybe. But if you put a bunch of them together, it just de-evolves into chaos. Yeah, are you talking about, like, the organization or humans? Yeah, humans in general, for sure. But so this is interesting because Ellie's actually getting picked on. Ellie always has that attitude. She very much lives in the moment, I think. So the idea of her being behind on running, like, because Brittany, the bee girl, Ellie doesn't do well in these classes or gym. She doesn't take it seriously, which fits with her character very well. You know, she's listening to music and she's always behind. But it kind of affects the group. It's kind of like a military, right? If you're only as strong as your weakest soldier, your weakest player or whatever. So because Ellie doesn't push herself, everybody gets a punishment for that. And that's why she's getting picked on. So, you know, you kind of want to hate Brittany, but she's kind of got a point too, so you can see why Ellie gets picked on. So Wendy here, another word. Ooh, fun. That bee. Mean Girls in the Apocalypse. Yeah, but she also kind of has a point. And so this is Kwang is his name. So this is what he was saying, and I love this conversation. It's one of we didn't get, in my opinion, a lot of additional extras in this. A lot of this went really close to the game. Like, there was a lot of, like, pulled exactly from the game, but this scene wasn't, and this was my favorite part because we got new information. Stop trying to make Fedra happen. Yeah, it's never gonna happen. Hydrate. So I thought this was interesting. So she was looking at the photo of his wife and daughter, who are probably dead, right? Like, he probably doesn't have a family anymore. The picture looks kind of like when she, you can't see it here, but when she looks at it up close, like, it was folded. Like, it has, like, the folding, like, creases in it. So it was probably, like, in his pocket for years or whatever. He probably got moved up to captain. I don't know why. It just doesn't feel like his family's alive. Are you a cup or a keys? Yeah, and so he gives her two options. Like, hey, like, and he uses the cup, like, tells her pretty much that, you know, she can be put herself in a miserable position, which will just lead to her death in some way. And she's most likely going to take orders from somebody like Brittany. And so, like, or you have the other option, which I forgot. Seth, was it you that called it out last night? That it's the naughty dog symbol on the keys? It's super cool. Or, you know, you can kind of get in line and then you'll be in a position where then all of a sudden you're in charge. And let's be honest, one thing that Ellie wants more than anything is to kind of be in charge, at least in this show. Like, she very much wants power, I feel like. So, and it's keys, like it's going to open doors for you, right? Like the cup thing he mentioned, I don't know why it's a cup, but he did mention like getting drunk on a rooftop, falling off and dying. So maybe drinking. I don't know. I was trying to figure out maybe it's just because there was a cup on the table, but I was trying to figure out the symbolism behind that cup. I like this dude because it's quite a balanced depiction of an otherwise antagonistic group, Fedra. Yeah. Which group are we cheering for? Fedra or the Fireflies? well, and that's the problem, right? So in this whole episode, you have Ellie that represents Fedra in a sense, and you have Riley that represents the Fireflies, and both of them believe that the path that they are taking is the best path for them, even though I don't think either of them really is behind the cause 100%. Like, Riley's not, she's trying to almost talk herself into being behind the Fireflies' cause, just so that she feels like she has a place where she belongs, that she's not mistreated, and that she has a family, which she talks about. Whereas Ellie's just trying to pick the best options she has with Fedra, like that, and that's why this conversation was important too. It's like, do you want to be told what to do by a Brittany your whole life, or do you want to have some control? So it's a sucky conversation, but what's so cool is like, so you have these opposite sides, but then you have Ellie and Riley that are actually like the connection. Like, it's unfortunate that they have to be on opposite sides. That was going to be my next question. Which one? I mean, I would hope people can stay safe, but both organizations have their issues. Right. Yeah. Like, and we talk about that too. Like Ellie brings that up very, I think it was justified the way she kind of lashed out at Riley later in this episode. But we'll talk about that. But like, Riley's like, oh, I wouldn't let them hurt you. It's like, you don't have control over that. You wouldn't have control over any of that. And then if Ellie did become an officer, she's literally the target of Riley. Like, Riley's target would be to kill Ellie eventually down the road. So it just sucks. It's just a sucky situation. And it's like really important to think about as these kids make their decisions. 2 big warring factions and 30 smaller ones. Yeah. It's wild. Okay. So, yeah, he talks about her swallowing her pride to become an officer, which I just like that because it's like Ellie swallowing pride is, I don't know if she's ever capable of such a feat. Like, she's not. It's weird because we were talking about this a little bit last night. I don't ever view Ellie as necessarily a leader, but I would definitely never view her as a soldier, like somebody that just follows orders either. She's very much just her own independent person, and she wants that independence and she wants that power, but she doesn't want that power to control others. Like, it's different. They nailed the casting. Yeah, Storm did I really liked her as Riley. Yeah, and he even gave her like, he empathizes with Ellie for some reason. I don't know if it's because of his daughter, maybe that's in that frame. Like, maybe there's some similarities where he sees some of his daughter in Ellie, that hard-headedness, or himself, like he's lost people. But he definitely, I'm not saying that he's picking favorites here, because I don't know if he said anything to Bethany, but he's trying to help Ellie out. And I like that side of Fedra. I like this guy. I like how Fedra it's not just Fedra. It's made up of people, and different people are different personalities. Yeah. And I think this is one of the first times, too, that Ellie really starts thinking about the future here. Like, he says this, and then Ellie starts talking about, well, like, he got into her head, for sure. Like, he has made a difference for her at this point, because when they're on the rooftop, Ellie talks about the possibility of her moving up the ranks at Fedra. So, really interesting. A typical kid that doesn't know what they want, wants to guide her whatever possible, better. Yeah, but does he do, my question is, does he do that for everyone? Because I got the feeling he doesn't. I think he sees something in Ellie. Like he says, he's like, you're so smart, you're stupid. And that's like the best way to describe Ellie, in my opinion, by the way. Like, she's so smart, she's stupid. It's just like, stop it. All you ever do is like, do these things, and it just damages yourself. And it's just a terrible trend with her. Lone gunman, samurai, all the skills to get stuff done and willingness to get the job done. Okay. So then she has that chat. She goes back to her room where, like, it's very military feeling. Like, you know, like they're banging on the doors, like, turn your lights off. Like, you get huge eye rolls from Ellie. But we also get a couple of little Easter eggs in her room. So she has the poster of the moon because Ellie loves space. We get the Mortal Kombat poster, and we get dinosaurs because we know that Ellie, well, I don't think it's been mentioned in the series yet. This isn't so much of a spoiler, just as like a little Ellie fact, but Ellie loves dinosaurs. So it's really cute that we get to see, somebody drew that. Probably Ellie, because in the game, Ellie writes in her journal, she draws and stuff. So it's probably done by Ellie. I like it. Dummy intellect, right? Yeah, so I just like that. And then we had what's cool, and I kind of jumped ahead here, but I don't have the picture of the Mortal Kombat poster in her room, but what's cool about that is she has this poster of Mortal Kombat, and I'm pretty sure at this point she's never even played. So she just likes the idea of Mortal Kombat. She knows it's a game. She knows like that it's something she would like, but she hasn't actually got to play it yet. So when she gets to play it later on in this episode, do you know how cool that would be? Like pretty much just like, not idolizing, but like having this crazy passion and interest into something and then actually getting to experience it. So like the fact that Riley was able to give that to her is super neat. That looks like the eyeball looking through the wall. Which one? Why did they change it to Mortal Kombat? So from what I understand with Mortal Kombat is because HBO had the rights to Mortal Kombat, so they could in fact use it. And from what I understand, and this is just kind of like word on the street, but the reason that Naughty Dog didn't is obviously they didn't have the rights, so they had to make up their own game. And in the DLC in the game, and we'll kind of talk about this, there's no actual, it's a lot different. But Naughty Dog didn't want to like supposedly create an entire game within a game. Like you'd have to do a ton of work to make a fighting game for like a 1 minute clip in the game, in The Last of Us. Does that make sense? So they're kind of like, yeah, this is a game that we just made up. And, but once they had access to the rights of Mortal Kombat, they're like, heck yeah, let's use that. Because it fits. Like this is supposed to be Earth, right? This is supposed to be, we're supposed to be able to familiarize ourselves with these things. Like there's Subways, there's Victoria's Secrets. Like it's not its own realm or anything. So why not? Why not have Mortal Kombat? Makes sense. She does. She also says to Riley, she goes, is it a dinosaur? Yeah. Oh, under the dinosaur. Oh, yeah, I don't know what that is. It's like a robot from a comic book. Okay, so then Riley sneaks in. This part's really similar. This is going to sound so stupid. This part's really similar to the game. I don't know why, but it kind of bothers me that it's like a reflection of like where her bed is in the game. And it shouldn't bother me, but it does bother me. It's like one of those stupid things where it's just like my brain was like, oh, this is so similar, except everything's backwards. I think Riley in the game, instead of putting her mouth over Ellie to wake her up, doesn't she bite her? Like she like does like a fake infected bite. Angel knives. Yeah, it may well be Mortal Kombat. It's an analog from, exactly. It's like, this is Mortal Kombat, but, because they even talk about like they don't say fatalities specifically, but they're like, they have this finisher where she, you know, stabs them and lifts them. And it's like, that's supposed to be Mortal Kombat. That's supposed to be a fatality. But they didn't have rights to it. I'm surprised that it's Mortal Kombat 2, since they were on Mortal Kombat 5 by 2003. Sir, have you been into an arcade in the mall? They're always out of date. People who own arcades are like, that costs money to get the new one. Just keep it as is. But yeah, so this is really similar. I love this because like it's the same thing. She's got her one weapon, which is her dagger or her switchblade, and you know, she holds it up against Riley. But yeah, this was really, really, everything I think from here on out, except for some of the conversation on the rooftop, is really similar to the DLC. I think this episode, out of all of them, have been the most like the gameplay than anything else we've seen. I felt like the game Riley was kind of like another Ellie in a way. I kind of agree with that, Punish. Yeah, the Riley in this, she did have her own vibe, and she was way more mature, in my opinion, than Ellie. Whereas, like, yeah, in the game, they kind of felt very much like, yeah, we're both kids. We both kind of, like, have this similar thing going on. Riley felt like an older sister. Like, she kind of felt much more protective over Ellie, and, like, maybe because she's had a family before, and she's actually had to, like, kind of grow up a little bit faster because she remembers losing her parents and such. But there's a difference between these two, and I think that works better. Storm's acting, wardrobe, hair were all very standout. Yeah. Kind of be more alpha than Ellie, who accepts that. Ellie is, like, so far she's always kind of looking for somebody. I don't know if she's intentionally doing it, but so far the dynamics is she definitely clings to people that can protect her, right? They removed the brick game. They really don't want bricks in this freaking show. What is up? This is cool. So they have the Walkman here. This is kind of a neat, like, you can't see it on this one, but also she has a paleontology book. So that's cool. And I think that, like, it's supposed to be a little, like, I'm not sure, but is that supposed to be like a little space, not station, what are they called? Like the ones that, something to do with space. But yeah, so this kind of hints, like, we have the band, which is cool because we hear the music later on, but for those of you who played part 2, like, we've heard that song in there as well, which is a really nice moment. But then also on here is the song that we'll hear later in the Halloween store. So that's where Riley got it. Just like, it's continuity there. Like, she was able to play that song because Ellie had it, and she took it, put it in her pocket. Like a satellite thing, yeah. Like, I think it's supposed to be like some type of, like, satellite thing. It's like something that lands on the surface of the moon or something. I think the lunar lander from the Apollo missions, yeah. Model moon land, yeah. You guys know. At first, I thought Ellie left Joel and went to the military school and escaped with Riley. Oh, you thought Ellie left Joel and went to the military. Oh, like, you thought this was like you didn't realize that this was they didn't say anything that this was a flashback, did they? They just showed Ellie running around the gym. They weren't like 4 months earlier or anything like that. I just realized that. Huh. That's a really good point. Was anybody else confused about that haven't played the games? They didn't say that. No on-screen text for it. Interesting. I did not catch that. So we did learn, this was a cool, like, so they're sneaking out, and, like, you know, of course Riley asks her why she has a black eye. We learned that, we learned a couple of things here. First off, we learned that Ellie, I don't know if this is true or she's trying to show off to Riley. Supposedly Brittany had, like, 16 stitches, so I don't know. I can't. What do you guys think? Do you think that actually happened, or do you think she's trying to like, kind of show off to Riley and say she can handle herself? Also, this is interesting. Supposedly there was, like, a Last of Us comic book or something. I've seen images of it. I have not read it or looked into it at all, so I don't know if we ever get the answer to this, but both in the game and in the show, Ellie has an eyebrow with a scar on it, and she talks about it here. She said it could have been a 7-Eleven situation. I've already lost one of my eyebrows or something like that. And it's like, what happened at 7-Eleven? Did we ever know? Or is that just between them? Maybe it's supposed to be in Ellie's head, like she's reliving. Well, that's how I took it. Like, well, because it's like one of those things where it's like she's like thinking, like, what should I do here? Should I leave Joel or should I stay with Joel? And so we get to experience this past where it's like this past is what made Ellie decide to stay with Joel, right? Like, she's not going to lose anyone else. But I didn't think about the fact that if you didn't know, that would have been really confusing. The officer said it too? Oh, did he? About the 16 stitches? Okay, so it was true. No worries, Joe. eyebrow. I think that's really cute. I just want to know. But yeah, so she's like, yeah, I want to keep my other eyebrow in one piece, which I was just like, oh, tell me more. But we didn't get to know more. So it's either between them or it's something to like the nod of that comic book that I've never read or something. Again, I think this was a Seth point out right here. This was cute. So they're talking, like they go inside, they sneak into this building. Turn on their flashlights, and Ellie has to like hit hers, which is totally a nod to the game where every once in a while you'd have to like shake your controller, which I thought was kind of a weird addition to the game. I was like, why do I have to do this? But I remember the first couple times I had to do it, it totally freaked me out because I didn't catch it in time. So as I'm like creeping around looking, like I didn't notice the on-screen thing to shake the controller, and then it got dark all of a sudden. So it kind of freaked me out. So that was fun. They talk a little bit about the eyebrow in the companion podcast. Oh, did you get any information about it? When Ellie went to military school, I thought it was present day. Oh, gosh, that's awful. I didn't think about that. So anyways, I like that. And also, we get back here just to mention Ellie's outfit because she was wearing a different shirt. Remember, she changed while she was with Riley. But we have her in that shirt, the Nathan Drake shirt, which is, again, just really good continuity because that's the shirt she's wearing when the Fireflies pick her up with Marlene. So that literally had happened that previous night, right? So she's wearing the same clothes. So good on them. Okay, so they find this guy in the hallway, and this is cool because, yeah, you'd stumble across things like this, and he wasn't here just like a day before, as Riley says. That stupid effect with the light was supposed to tell you it was in the past. So if you guys don't know, when we first see the Fedra like school when they're running around the gym, I think it was supposed to be the lights on the ceiling that were like kind of going in and out, like just bad electricity, old lights or whatever. But there was like this strobe effect, and it was driving Drew mad. He's like, I hate this effect. I hate this effect. And it was, as soon as he mentioned it, it was very distracting, to be fair, but that's what he's talking about. When I said I think both happened, I was referring to the 16 stitches or showing off to Riley. Oh, okay. So it was like one of those things. Like she's like, so it actually happened, and also, yeah, I can take care of myself. I'm strong and powerful. Yeah. The only way you can know it was a flashback is when Riley says Marlene, and Ellie doesn't know the name, but that is late in the episode. That's a good point. I think the only other clue here, sorry, I'm in a mass text, and it's my sister's, and it's the worst. The other thing is, I mean, we do know from, I think it was Ellie's conversation with Marlene or Joel, that Ellie was in a Fedra school. So when you see her in a Fedra school, you're kind of like, okay, this must be in the past. But yeah, it's kind of a big jump to assume. I think it was a cool feature in the game with the control. You like that? Yeah, like at first I was like, this is kind of dumb, but there was a couple moments where it actually really messed with me. Like it made it a little creepier. When you watch on a big screen, the strobe effect is bad. Yeah, I noticed that too, Seth, when I took this. So the floor there is kind of like rotten to, like it does look bad. Like the flooring does look bad there, but it's also like, why did it cave in? Like, or why did he sit here? Like if this, I don't know. I don't know what caused this to break later, but it was, anyways. So he's leaning up against this wall here, which I like because it kind of looks like, it reminded me of the clicker that's like leaned up against, or not the clicker, it was a stalker. Was it a stalker? I think it was a stalker. Yeah, who was like leaned up at the wall in the mall. They've got that same look. So when you come across bodies, it's like, are they infected or are they just dead? But they find the alcohol here, which is nice because this is how we learn. This is how Ellie tries her first alcohol sip, because when she was with Joel, it's that whole like, I've had it before. Yeah, I'll have to go look now. This part was dumb. Yeah, this part bothered Drew. He's like, why did the floor just break? And I was like, I don't know. Like, if he was infected, I feel like the floor would have made sense because the way the spores actually, like, go onto the wall, like, I could see them kind of getting into, like, the floorboards and kind of, like, push, just making it a weaker structure. And with a body possibly, like, decomposing, there would be an effect there. I could believe that. But this guy just dying within the last 48 hours and the floor fall underneath him is kind of weird. It's fine. that Tess, she went to the mall and Tess was like, you're stupid. So if someone didn't realize it was set up, oh, that's true. Tess did say that. Well, so if someone didn't realize it was set up, it was. So Ellie's like, yeah, we went to the mall. That's right. And Tess is like, you were an idiot. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so he's drinking alcohol here. They find out, so he probably, Ellie mentions this, but he probably intentionally killed himself. What is interesting, though, is those pills look awfully familiar, don't they? Like, I know that this is, yeah, it is in the same. We're in Boston here. And who was selling those pills around in Boston? So there's a good chance that those actually might have came from Joel. I'm just noticed, but... Well, I think Riley's more shook by it because she was literally in this hallway like less than 24 hours ago, right? Because she's going back and forth from her base. And just to stumble across that randomly, it's like somebody else was living in this place and I didn't even know. Jesse Pinkman trying to dissolve him, I guess. I saw in the previous preview of the next episode, especially since there is 2 more episodes left in this. In the next episode, Troy Baker, yes. No. Yes. Correct. J-Ron, that is correct. He's the one with the hat. Okay. And then this guy falls to the floor. So then they get to the rooftop, and I like this because we get Ellie here again trying to show off to Riley. So I think early on, like, even if you don't know, you get there's a couple of little breadcrumbs that lead to you realizing that she actually has a crush on Riley. And so we see her with the alcohol with Joel, and she's like, ugh, yeah, it's still disgusting. But all of a sudden, and I thought of this because Lost Colony was mentioning, like, oh, I could take a shot and not make a stray face in front of people I'm trying to impress. That's exactly what Ellie does here. So she takes it, she has a little smirk, but she, like, hides this, like, oh, that's awful. And she's like, it's great. Because she's trying to impress Riley, right? So that's another little breadcrumb to that. Yeah, and it's not, right? Like, it's terrible, but, you know, try to play it cool. It was funny, and it was a fun little jump scare, which we don't get a lot of in this, so, yeah. So this is where they have this conversation between Fedra and the Fireflies, and, like, Ellie's really questioning Riley here, which I think is good, because we don't know at this point exactly why Riley was searching for, like, another option for her life, but she makes good points of, like, you think they're great and they're doing all these good things, but are they really doing all these good things? And you can't really know, like, they're important conversations to have because they are the future, right? She could have been a Fedra officer and Riley could have been leading the Fireflies because they're at the same age. And then all of a sudden you have them against each other. And it's like, do you actually believe in these causes anymore, or what's happening? But it's conversations like this that make you understand how these groups form and how these groups get their numbers and these, you know, these kids to join and then like followers and stuff. So I like this conversation, and they're questioning each other. And Ellie does a lot think that she knows everything at times, which Riley points out. But at the same time, it's like, I don't think Riley fully understands what she's getting into either. But she's just so desperate for that, like, family bonding that she doesn't really care. Okay, one second. All right. So then we get the reveal of the mall, which is cool. We get the outside. I don't think Liberty Gardens. I can't remember if that was the name of the mall. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember what the name of the mall was in the show or in the game, but it doesn't really matter. It's cool. You know what's kind of weird? I don't know if I was the only one who thought this, but this one little moment here where they look at the mall with all the lights off and stuff. Did anybody else think of Stranger Things? Because I did. I don't know why. I guess it's just because it's a mall, but it felt, I guess empty malls in general are just kind of eerie. So it felt like that. But so they see the mall and then they get to go inside. If I was assigned sewer guard and then met people saying you could save the world, I can't. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I agree, Chloe. That's 100%. Didn't we see Vecna in this episode too? Yeah, Vecna's here. He's chilling in the store. So a big difference here between the DLC and, not big, but a difference here between the DLC and this is Riley turns on the power right away. It's the first thing they do in the mall. And in the DLC, you go around a lot more, and then later you turn on the power, if I remember right. So it's not a huge deal, but it's kind of one of those moments where I think it made for such a cool cinematic change that I'm totally for it, because you get this. I love this screenshot so much. This was so cool. I thought the reveal was just a masterpiece. I love the lighting in this. I love the like framing of this. You could tell all the work that they put in with everything. This set is so cool. I wouldn't change anything about this part. I really liked it. Bethany is vegan confirmed. Vecna. Vegan Vecna? I was like, how do you know that Bethany is a vegan? What an odd correlation to make. Yes, so I'm big into lighting. I really so I went to film school for like 2 years. So the very little experience I've got with lighting, I've realized how challenging lighting is. It's really, really tough to get lighting right. So when there's good lighting in a show, it's like one of the first things I really like to look at, because it's just like every single light in this shot was like somebody had to think about. They had to think about the color, the way it was like facing, and there's so many lights, and it's just so good. Yes, the mall looked astounding. I loved it. I cannot believe they built this entire set. This is so cool. Love the neon signs. Love the set dressing. Yes. And the plants to give it that infecting. It does two things, right? You have all this this overgrowth. So you kind of at first you're like, ugh, those spores, fungus. But then you realize, no, that's kind of just nature taking over. So it's kind of like this ugly, beautiful thing in a sense. Really neat. Supposedly they built like this whole thing. Like I think like that first walkway over there, I think that's where it ends. But like, yeah, that's built. So we get the escalator part. She's like, electric stairs? Which is cute because in the DLC, she's also pretty excited about the escalator. She mentions she's like, oh, this is fucking cool. And she goes up the escalators. This one, she's totally in it though. I liked the extra moments we got with Ellie on the escalator. And I think this is one of the things too. There's so many moments in this. Riley is super mature, very composed, where Ellie is so childlike. And yeah, it's a difference between the two characters' personalities, but I think the biggest difference is that Riley had to grow up faster. And she is technically older, but like she says later, she remembers being part of a family. She remembers losing her family. She remembers, and while Ellie is an orphan, she doesn't really remember her mom. I don't even know about Ellie's dad, but she doesn't remember them, which in this case makes it so she hasn't really experienced that loss. She's experienced loneliness, but she hasn't experienced loss. So she still has this very innocent immaturity about her, and it's really cute because Riley loves it. It's one of those things where it's even though Riley doesn't act like that and doesn't experience it, she loves seeing Ellie's happiness, and I think it's just adorable. It's like a caveman coming in the 21st century. Yeah. You know what I was wondering about the sponsorship of this? Have you noticed though, Seth? Almost every sign is either partially blocked or partially torn down. So I'm wondering if they would still get in trouble. For instance, if it said, it doesn't say Subway, it says sub, and then the way part is broken. So do they have to give money to Subway, or does Subway pay for sponsorship? How does that work? Almost every sign is not complete in this. I still get that way on a moving sidewalk at the airport. You're like, look how fast I can go. I have superpowers. Yeah. It's cute. I love that scene. So then we get this, which we get the Dawn of the Wolf, or Dawn of Wolf or something. I can't read it. But that's in the game. We get the whole, like, on this, when Ellie is with Joel, I can't remember what city it's in. I want to say it's right after the Hunters in Pittsburgh. But on the wall, we get this huge advertisement for this exact game with the same visual and everything. Ellie's like, oh, you know, like she doesn't even really understand teen movies because she's never really seen them. She asked Joel about it. She's like, why would you even go to that? And he won't answer the question. But it's obvious that he probably went with Sarah, took Sarah. So he avoids the question because it's another like, hey, let's talk about, you know, I don't want to remember my child because it's too painful kind of a moment. But it's cool that they had that poster in here. There is a full Starbucks sign later in the step. There is. It says coming soon Starbucks. So like, I'm sure like, that's what I'm wondering. Like, I'm sure some of them they had to pay for or like they were sponsored. But if the sign is incomplete, I wonder if they actually do need any type of permission for that. Dawn of the Wolf. Thank you. It was in Pittsburgh. Yep. There we go. Thank you guys. Did I not take a picture? Oh, I didn't get actually a picture of the store. But then we have Victoria's Secret, right? And I think this is so cool because you get this. Hold on. They talk about it a little bit at the end. I think after the episode interviews, they talk about it. And I think this is really important. I think it was Bella Ramsey that says it. But you have all this stuff that's going around you. Your main like objective is just to survive, but you still don't have any control of just being a normal human and like getting a crush on someone or, you know, like just like kind of like Joel, you don't have control over falling in love with someone. And I love this because just like most teenagers, there's this curiosity with sexuality and they hint on it just enough in this scene where it's really cute and really sweet. And then we get a like, because Riley says something along the lines of like, I'm trying to imagine you wearing something like this and it's lingerie. And you could have easily, and this is another one of those like, I think like Riley, like, you're kind of flirting. You're flirting at this point because she could have easily said, I can't imagine people wearing this back then. That's crazy. No, she specifically says, I'm trying to imagine you wearing this, which is, you're flirting. It's really sweet. And then Ellie knows that too because then she's like fixing her hair in the reflection. And it was just like another one of those really innocent teen, well, this is kind of moving away from innocence, but like, it's one of those teen moments where I think everyone can relate to. And even though they're in this post-apocalyptic world, you still have these feelings that they're never going to go away. They did reference Starbucks in the last, that's true. Yeah, because she says that. She's like, is that what all the Starbucks are in the QZs? They used to sell this shit or whatever. And then he's like, yeah. Shows in the movies ask brands for money to put in the, oh, okay. So they would have gotten money for it. So it's most likely then, yeah. Lots of sponsorship. Is that how you're supposed to flirt? I've been doing it all wrong. I think it was flirting. And I think it was cute. Because like I said, I think there's so many other ways that Riley could have talked about lingerie. But to say specifically on Ellie, another hint. Like another really good hint that like, do we have a thing going on here? It's like, yeah. Then the hand holding. She's like, close your eyes. And this is a trust thing. This is another trust thing. First off, Ellie's already out here at 2 a.m. Well, like probably like 2:30 now. She's going with Riley. She doesn't even know where she was going. It's 100% full trust. And I think that's very much how Ellie operates in her like younger years is just she puts all of her faith and all of her trust in one person. And I think the world keeps like snatching those people from her. Be right back. Going to the mall. Make sure it's abandoned. All malls are abandoned. That's so true. Oh, it's not entirely true. It's so true. I think it's true. Oh, that hurts. Okay. But yeah, I like this hand holding. I think it was sweet. And then this is another one of those images where I was like, look at the lighting. It's so beautiful. And this was very much like the game. So in the game, Riley doesn't get much of a chance to ride the horses with Ellie. She starts it. Ellie goes around a couple times. By the time Riley gets on, the carousel stops. It's kind of one of those things again, right? They talked about where you have this moment, this little innocence here, and then the fun ends. Like, because it always does in this world. The fun always ends. You get slapped in the face with the realization of how hard life is. But this was beautiful. I thought it was so cute. Kat, I was literally at a mall in Denver when you're trying to find that store to get an app shirt. Yeah, malls exist. It's yeah, I'm aware. It was Park Meadows. Yeah, malls exist. They're empty though. And by empty, I mean like they're about 1/3 of the way full as they used to be. And also stores aren't replacing stores anymore because it's not profitable to have an actual storefront. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying I was going with what Bay was saying, and I agree. He's over exaggerating, but yeah, they're pretty empty now. Love the soft lighting, the very warm tones of this. You've got like the actual bulb lighting opposed to LEDs, which gives like a much, it's just a really magical scene. And I think it's really pretty. Great sepia tone. Yeah, super warm. Me exaggerating? Never. But this is when we learn, and I liked this too. This is when we learn a little bit more about Fedra, they actually give assignments to people. Like, again, very military. Riley sounds like she was a troublemaker in Fedra. And again, I wonder how much of that came from her feeling like she needs to protect people like Ellie, like specifically Ellie. So if she got in a lot of fights, then she got assigned to something where they wouldn't put her in a leadership role. She got assigned to sewers or sewage duty or whatever. And of course, like, again, like, yeah, I can't blame her for trying to find a different path for her life. It's crazy. Felt like pre-pandemic. Malls are real. I think they did a good job of letting the carousel illuminate itself. That's how our main malls was set up too. Yeah, like, I mean, it feels like it's just like this little bubble of like a magical place here that they get to have, and they made it feel that way. They made it. I know it's easy to make a carousel stand out, but in a sense, in a mall with all these other LEDs everywhere, it's kind of not. But they did. They made this one stand out, and they didn't use LEDs specifically. They used the bulbs, and it's really nice, and it's very warm, and it's very sweet here. Young Forrest Whitaker here, kind of. I wonder if Wong had and I wonder that too. Like, I don't know if he did. I think he's something in Ellie. I don't know why I'm making this assumption, but I think something in Ellie reminds him of either himself or his daughter. And so he was trying to reach out to Ellie because in his mind, she's smart enough to make the right choices here. Or maybe Riley was like a wake up call to him, like, oh, we're going to start losing these kids if they don't, I don't know. Maybe he felt bad that Riley left because he probably understood why. Could be a lot of reasons. She went with the cup instead of the keys. No, she went with the window instead of the cup or keys. She just, bye. She left. But yeah, so we found out about that. Again, that's extra information I really enjoyed. In the game, I believe this is where Riley pulls out the pun book. I'm just mentioning like slight differences. She doesn't pull that out here, which it was fine, in my opinion, as long as the pun book existed. He did give the Walkman back and didn't punish her. Exactly, yeah. And then we get the photo booth scene, which was really, really sweet. I read that they changed the name of the photo booth. It used to be like Share Snap, I think, and they changed it to here like Star Snap or something like that. Supposedly the reason why is because this is in a different, like they did it like a 10-year difference, right? So Facebook wasn't a thing at the time. But in the game, you have the option to send these photos on your Facebook. Like you can actually like send it on your Facebook. But it's really cute. They also have this conversation in the DLC in the game where they say, what is it? It's like, what's a Facebook? I can't remember, but it's a cute line because they don't know what this stuff is. And I think they replaced, since we didn't get that line here, I think that's why we get the line later about a screenshot with the pun book. Maybe it's because Riley left, so Kwong needed to try to fix it. Yeah, like maybe that kind of like made him feel guilty in a sense. It definitely could have been. This scene was so cute. I loved the scene. in the show a lot more. And I think she was kind of touching on the subject, I believe. They were just a lot closer. And it probably has something to do with the way they animated, because in the game you got to pick their moves, like what they did, right? So the characters just kind of like, they were kind of together, but not really. Like, I just feel like maybe because of the character models, there wasn't a lot of overlap with them touching and stuff. It kind of felt more like a little bit more robotic. It didn't at the time until I saw this, but their chemistry here was, I loved this. I thought this was better than the game. MySpace a thing yet or no? I don't know. That's a good question. Early 2000s. Yeah, okay. Okay, so we had this scene, which was excellent. And then she takes her to Raja's arcade, which, again, happens in the DLC. A lot of this is really, really close to what you experience in the game. What are your guys' thoughts on them actually playing Mortal Kombat? So, okay, in the DLC, the big difference is not Mortal Kombat, it's Angel Knives doesn't work, the game that Ellie's all into. And because it doesn't work, what Riley ends up doing is she makes Ellie close her eyes, and then she, like, explains it with so much, like, Ellie has to use her imagination really strong in that moment. And you play the game, all you see is Ellie's face and, like, combos you're supposed to do. Because Riley is so vivid about her storytelling that, like, Ellie gets to experience it through her and with her imagination. And I'm really curious on if you guys liked that change or didn't, because Drew brought up a really good point, and I'm going to touch on this a little bit here, and this is a little bit of a spoiler for part 2, but not a major one. But in the game for part 2, Ellie has to use her imagination when she thinks about going to space. And so when he made that correlation, I was like, oh, that's such a good point. Like, I really liked how imaginative Ellie was. And I thought it made the moment a little bit sweeter. And just, I didn't know I missed it until Drew brought up that point. Just realized, no, Ashley Johnson for the flashback. Yeah, so I'm actually wondering if that's not going to happen to the last episode, Seth, because we hear a little bit about her mom in the end parts of the game. I'm trying to say this carefully. In the end parts of the game via recorders, so maybe that's when they're going to bring it up. I think they let them play because in the DLC, Ellie closing her eyes was them letting Ellie trust Riley to feel the imagination. The closing eyes was a bit covered earlier in the episode. It was, and I think they put that in because of that. And it was one of those things. It's like, okay, well, did they originally make? Again, this is a word on the street. In the game, it wasn't worth Naughty Dog putting a ton of effort into a mini game within the DLC, so that's what they did instead, because they didn't want to have to, like, design and do like an 8-bit version of a separate game. And in this, they had the rights to do it, so they went ahead and did it. But it also kind of made it better. I don't know. Like, it could go either way for me, but I do like how they tried to give that trust and imagination. They gave that trust in a different part of this, like you said, when she closes her eyes and grabs her hands. But we didn't get that imagination part of Ellie's character. That's true. There is a cassette that makes it more real, but it's also like the cassette is she's listening to the cassette, and in here she's listening to Riley. I found the original scene kind of hard to take and prefer the literal, I guess. And also it feels nice that things are working and they just get to have a legit good time here. That's a good point. I like that too. I also okay. I know that Riley's been back and forth here a lot. Like, she's kind of been living in this mall for a while, and she planned this, like, perfect date night. But it is really sweet how much effort she put into all this. Like, she knew how she was going to get the coin. She knew how, like, what steps they were going to take and, like, the order of things she was going to do. And it was just really, it's one of those things that, like, Riley doesn't really talk about, but you can tell that even while Riley wasn't with Ellie, she was thinking about Ellie. Non-gamer viewers would be confused AF. Yeah, the game's working was a positive thing. And again, the imaginative bit would not have worked for TV given how the show has been done so far. Oh, I would disagree with that. I think that they could definitely have written it in a way that it would have worked. I don't think you're giving enough credit to just viewers and not gamers. Because as a gamer, that part wasn't like, oh, this is so exciting, hitting these buttons. Like, no, like I was more so just watching a small show. Yeah, I was pushing a button when they told me to, but I was just watching something happen. I can't tell you if it's better or not. I just think it's a huge difference. And I do like the fact that like we saw that listening and that imagination of Ellie's 2 times in the game, like at least twice in the game. And in here, we missed one of those moments. Raja, you know, I was wondering about that. So Raja is a character in Uncharted. I don't know if that's intentional or not. I believe in the DLC, it is also called Raja's Arcade. But did they pick Raja because of the character isn't it Eddie Raja in Uncharted 1? I don't know why it would be his arcade, but it is a name I've heard through Naughty Dog before. So yeah, this is where this was cool too. They're just like, no, I don't need that useless stuff. I need the coins. And it's just like, I like how they know about money. They're familiar with money. They don't think it's useful, but if they want to use these old things, it's obviously they need it. Remember that? Yeah, I felt nostalgic for sure. I meant in terms of projecting anything made up on screen. That hasn't been done in the show at all. If they had to try to write it without that, I can't see it being cool as I'm just playing. Okay, yeah, that's fair. But I disagree. I think they could have done a really cool job with it. It's got to be a reference. It's very specific. Eddie Raja is the only thing I can think of, but I don't know too much about. There is more of an emotional connection in both instances where she has to use her imagination with the 2 people that mean the most to her at the time. See, I like that thought. I think that's really sweet. But yeah, what was cool though is like we got to see a finisher of Melina's, and this exact finisher or fatality, when Ellie was with Joel, they come across a Mortal Kombat arcade. The first time we saw it, remember, and we're all like, it's Mortal Kombat? Interesting. But she says, oh, it's so cool. And then there's this character and she like swallows him up and then vomits out his bones or whatever. And like, she knew that because of this moment right here that we get to see. Mist, hi. Thanks for subscribing, sir. Hello, sir. The fact that when you close your eyes and imagine the possibilities are endless. Right. And it's another one of those things is like, that's a part where it's like, even though Ellie's not going to be able to be an astronaut, people around her still want her to experience these things that the world has taken away from her. Even though Ellie can't really experience gaming, the people that love her want her to experience it. Right. I definitely, Drew, honestly, I'm with you on this one. But I can see it both ways. Don't think it would work with how they've written the show. It would have been equivalent of them introducing Ant-Man Quantum Realm since it was grounded. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, agree to disagree. No worries. But yeah, I like how she recalls this moment with Joel later. So it was fun to see that. I'm kind of lurking. No worries, Miz. I know. I'm glad you stopped to say hello. Okay, so then we get the guy who, again, is very familiar of the guy in the hallway. I don't know if that's intentional or not, because sometimes these guys, like, they're up against the wall. So the fact that this guy's, like, slouched on the ground almost exactly like the guy that they found in the hallway, it might have been a little bit of a, like, ooh. Like, what is it? When they're trying to hint at what's to come. I feel like that's a little bit what that was. But, yeah. I just realized the hole at the bottom of this guy's shoe. You know what? Sorry, this is going to sound so random. The hole at the bottom of his shoe reminds me. Have you guys ever seen Michael Jackson live doing Smooth Criminal? There's a famous dance move where he does the lean. He was able to do that live because he had shoes like that because it would hook into this piece on the stage so that they could lean without their shoes coming off. I don't know why I told you that, but that's what they remind me of. So we get this guy that, okay, so here's the question. The Fireflies told Riley to station herself in the mall. She has obvious tasks. She's making bombs. She's stationed here for a reason, and then they're moving her. Did they not check the mall? Did they tell her to check how was this guy still here? Is my question. Like, if Riley has been stationed here by the Fireflies, you would think that either the Fireflies have already fully checked the location or that Riley checked the location. And if you come across a stalker, you know, like, or somebody, an infected becoming a stalker against the wall, like, why didn't they shoot it? Why didn't they check this out? It would have been more believable maybe if the doors were partially closed, like in the DLC, like the door is locked, so you wouldn't have known that there was an infected in there. You're like, oh, that store is locked. But I thought it was kind of weird that this guy was just like overlooked. Whoop. Got mail going through. Yeah, how many games still work? Remember arcades breaking down. Oh my gosh, arcades are tough to keep up. This guy looked metal AF. It's our first wall guy. Yeah. And the guy upstairs tried to do the lean and fell over, which damaged the floor mysteries. The floor was damaged because they were trying to do the nail. There it is. We figured it out. The store was locked in the DLC, right? So I think there was just I don't want to like over analyze this show, but I wish they would have given us a little explanation on why he was overlooked. In the game also, I don't want to say that there was a horde of infected, but there was definitely more than one. Like there was probably like 4 to 10 infected in the mall. So for them just to leave it up to this one guy, I want to know more about this guy. What happened? Why is he here? Why did nobody know he was here? Riley's bombs blow up the building Tess was in episode 1. Oh, you mean when Tess was first like on the street and she's like, I'm not a firefly. That part? Oh, I believe it. You're right. There were like 5 or 6. Okay. A litter of infected, if you will. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I would have liked something maybe like Riley saying, yeah, they tasked me to check the surroundings. I already did that. Like, because, like, she's new to this, right? Because Riley, I don't think would have a lot of experience with infected. She has a lot of experience in Fedra, which those guys are kind of isolated from the infected. So I don't know. I just would have liked that. I just like this line. They go into a taco place, and she goes, I have one more surprise, or I have another surprise for you. She's like, is it tacos? It's like, why would it? I just like that line. I thought it was cute, because Ellie's like, I don't know, it reminded me of me. Like, food? It's like, no, it's not food. But yeah. So they find where Riley has been, like, hiding out. They find her sleeping stuff. So she's been here for a while. It's obvious that the noise is what woke that guy up. God, my family. Okay. My family keeps trying to bother me this morning. Anyway, so we get the No Pun Intended Volume 2, which is cute, and we get to hear some of the puns that we heard in the game. So these were great. And like I said, I think we got this. I don't remember the pun about here, I have it here. Yeah, like it says, how does a computer get drunk? And it's like, it takes screenshots. And they're like, huh? What are screenshots? She's like, I don't know. And I think that's supposed to be like the replacement for the Facebook conversation from the DLC where like they wouldn't know what that is, obviously. So it's one of those things where like the viewer knows, the player knows, they don't know. And I like those, so I'm glad they replaced it with something. Oh, you guys don't hear anything? Okay. I think she visits multiple. She's in your first time. I think she visits multiple. Oh, isn't the taco place is why she says, yeah, wait, yeah, no, like they go, but yeah, but it's like one of those places. Like Riley goes and brings her in the back of the taco place. She's like, is it tacos? And it's like, no, it's not. Of course it's not tacos, because even if this place still had food, do you want to eat 20-year-old tacos? Like it was just another one of those really innocent, like Riley, like, Ellie, think for a second. And Ellie's like, fine. Okay, never mind. But yeah, it was cute. But yeah, so then she finds these bombs that Riley's been making, and this was another like, oh, these kids get thrown into real life, and this the terribleness of how this world is. And it's like, again, Ellie starts making these connections really well. Like, you're gonna use those against Fedra. She's like, I'm at Fedra. Like, I'm living there. You're gonna use these against. She doesn't quite say this, but she's touching the point of, you would be using these against me. To which Riley responds with like, oh, I wouldn't let them do that with you there. It's like, Riley, you won't have that kind of control. Like, you're literally helping them, and you're already, in a sense, becoming my enemy. But neither of them want that. So, again, this is when like, Ellie's really smart. Like, these are important things to think about. Where I think where Riley just kind of doesn't want to think about them. Like, she's playing ignorant because she knows that the truth isn't something that she really wants to think about, and she's just so desperate for that family, that like group bond, and being somebody that's useful in society. But 20-year-old tacos, basically Taco Bell today. Gross. So yeah, she finds out that they posted her here, so it's like, why didn't they look for that infected? And then we find out that Riley is leaving, which is the same in the game. So this is like Riley's, their like first date and their last date, and it totally sucks. And yeah, I think they did a good job here with emotions and acting, but just kind of go. So we get like then Ellie actually is like, bye, and she leaves because they have this argument, right? And then we hear screaming, which I thought was a cool little way to scare the viewer, because you hear the screaming, and my first thought was like, oh my gosh, is Riley getting bit now? Is that happening now? And it's like, no. It was a Halloween prop, which is fun. There's a couple little scenes in the Halloween shop in the DLC, like Riley scares Ellie. I don't think she actually gets scared, but she tries to scare Ellie by coming out of a coffin. So, they hit the same like points, little different execution. I assume Riley meant she is taking the bombs with her, not to be used in Boston. But yeah, if not, then Riley seems super naive there. And that's one of the questions, like, is she naive, or is she just playing ignorant because she knows? But like, was it you punished or Seth? Somebody? No, Seth. Seth just mentioned like there's a really good chance that those are the bombs that were used when Tess was on the streets, like in episode 1. That would make sense, like, with the timing of things too. Yeah. You wouldn't make the bombs in Boston to go to Atlanta. True. So I just took a screenshot of this because I just love the characters here. You have Riley and Ellie. They're sitting on the ground, and there's like space in between them. They're arguing, but like they're talking it out, right? But this, when you compare it to the scene after they get bit, is really cool because you've got the same lighting, you've got the same, they're sitting, I mean, they're switched places, but they're much closer, and it's kind of like, it's just nice to compare. You've got this very similar scene, but the character connection is way different. I've touched about this a lot, but this is where Riley kind of goes on about having a family. And I don't know what would be worse. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, that famous saying, it's like, it's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. And here it's like, is it better? Or does that make you weaker? Or does it make you more, like, not weaker in the sense, like, emotionally, obviously, but like weaker, like you could get yourself killed. So we have Ellie, who, like, she doesn't have parents, but she doesn't remember them. So she doesn't have this almost maturity that Riley does, this weight on her shoulders that Riley does. She doesn't have that, like, I want to protect people like Riley does. Not yet, anyways. And so I don't know what would be worse, to be honest. But cool conversation, sad conversation. And then we get the masks. These masks are, oh, guys, these are so cool to see these masks. And I bet it was really cool for Naughty Dog to see these items that they made in a computer, like, tangible. There's so many props. There's the masks. There's the pun books. There's, like, the outfits and everything. And I bet it was just so neat. Like, obviously the infected, for like Naughty Dog to like physically get to touch these items. It's like, they exist, they're real. I just think that's so cool. But these are exact, very cool. The word you're looking for is reckless. Yeah, reckless. That's a good one. That girl. That's a really good way to put that. If loving someone makes you a little bit more reckless, because then all of a sudden you're not as important anymore, right? And like, because when you love someone, you'll be reckless, as you said, to save them because they're more important. But if you're alone and you're always solo like that, you're the most important. So you're gonna make the right decisions for yourself. So which one's better? Because one, you're incredibly lonely, but your chances of survival are less. But the other way, it's like you actually have a reason to survive. You have a reason to live. That's a conversation that you could probably sit down and have for hours. Some drinks and talk about that for hours. I really like how the relationship is depicted and not like sexualized. Gratuitously, female relationships can sadly become fetishized. Oh gosh. No, I agree, Punish. So like their relationship is perfect. Like it feels, it doesn't even matter that it's two girls, in my opinion. I felt like I could relate to this. Like your first love, your first kiss, your first crush. Like it doesn't matter that it was, like you said, a girl and a girl, in my opinion. It was very much just like, this feels very real. Like this is something that, like, these were feelings that these teenagers had, and you know, Ellie took she took the jump and she decided to go for it, and it felt really sweet and cute and everything, like teen love is. And there's really good, well, the writing's always good, in my opinion. Like Naughty Dog does a really good job about making things, like even in such a fictional world, they make the characters and the personalities and the connections that they have very non-fictional. Like they feel very relatable, very real. So with the writing being that way, and then the chemistry that these two had, it just worked really well. I love me a good first kiss. I know, and it felt very, like, you get this, like, I think I have the picture. Hold on. It's so cute. So you get the kiss, which was really sweet. And this was the best, too, because, like, she's just straight up like, don't go. And, like, they're like, okay. Like, it's really romantic. All of a sudden, like, they have these two paths. They know that these two paths will either lead them to kill each other or separate from each other so much so that they'll never see each other again. And so they make this, like, very romantic, sweet thing where it's like, we're gonna be together. We're gonna figure it out. It doesn't matter. As long as we're together, we're gonna figure it out. So, like, this is one of those moments where it's like, love won out. And then, of course, they're interrupted by the real world, which happens all the time. But then, like, this like, as a still, it kind of looks silly. But Bella Ramsey's smile here was so sweet. Like, it very much felt like that giddiness that you get from your first, like, kiss. Like, I just liked it. It was really cute. The tension leading up to the kiss was palpable. We were all on the edge. Yeah, like, and they did a good job with enough breadcrumbs to it, right? Like, we had the lingerie conversation. We had the hand-holding conversation. We had the fighting, even. It would be one, because with that, you get that, like, I care about you so much, how could you leave me kind of a thing, right? So they really do add enough, like, at the right timing for the viewer to be like, is this, go for it, go for the kid, you know what I mean? Like, and they did, and it was really cute. And it does a good job with that in the game as well. I'm done cleaning for now. Knee hurts too much to continue. Oh no, that girl. Do you like ice it? Or do you have, like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm sure you're doing everything. You probably have, like, a brace and everything. It's just, I don't want you cleaning. Don't worry about it. Oh wow, and then we have this kiss. No, I'm just kidding. So this, again, they're interrupted by this stupid infected. Sorry, I'm calling him stupid because it's, like, so unfortunate. But again, we only get one in here, whereas in the DLC, there's a small there's like a gang of them. Okay, a litter, like as you said. The way Ellie looked at Riley throughout, Tor could just see you could totally see it. They did, again, great acting. You could see for sure. So we get this one stalker, and we don't. Here's my thing, because now I'm gonna because we have so many episodes under our belt, I'm gonna talk about this at first. Before I was defending it a lot, that people were complaining that there wasn't a lot of action in this show. And I was like, well, it's not really important because that's the part of the game that you play. That's the part that you need to actually be there to physically shoot, or that is the game, right? I feel like it's been too many episodes now. I feel like I'm okay with that to a point. I would like to see more infected. I'm now to a point where I'm just kind of like, can we make this? I don't know if it's they were testing the waters or it's a budgeting thing. In the DLC, there's more infected, and we don't even really shoot at them. We run from them. Because they're kids, right? They run from them. And so, I don't know. I'm totally fine with how this scene turned out, but I would be lying if I didn't say I want more infected. Give me more. It's just, it feels like it's getting to the point where it's not enough now. Use a heating pad. Okay. I gaggle of infected. Yes. It would be this part. Yeah. And so I'm totally fine. I get that this guy's one big dude against two teenage kids, and he really is able, and he's practically a stalker almost. So he's going to be strong. He has nice teeth for a mushroom. The single infected, the fact that they didn't even really have to run that. Yeah, I'm wondering, okay, was it chase scene out of budget? I liked the chase scene. I think it added a lot to oh my gosh, are they going to make it out? Okay, so in the DLC, you're running. You're not even shooting, right? You're running. You're following Riley. You get to this moment where you're like, oh my gosh, they're going to make it out. They're going to make it out. And then it turns, which is really important. And the reason why it's really important is because they climb up a scaffolding to get out a window. Riley makes it up. So Riley's technically safe. Ellie she falls down, right? And then she's then tangled up fighting with an infected, to where Riley then sacrifices herself in a sense. She jumps down because she wants to save Ellie, which we kind of missed that whole moment of Riley willing to risk her life to save Ellie. Kind of get that here, but not really. And the chasing was exciting. I don't know. What happened? Why didn't they put that in? Money? I don't know. Felt like the pacing was a bit weird. There should have been some more time of noise and what's that? But I feel like it was just a kiss. Oh, stalker, get behind me. Yeah, it went fast. For some reason, the big scenes that I remember from the game, Joel getting impaled, obviously this. There was another one I can't think of. It was something in Kansas City. But those scenes are just they're just happening so fast. It's why are we I love the extra. Well, actually, I don't feel like we got extra character development here. I think we got some extra stuff with Fedra. I want them to put as much time into these action sequences, though. I bet you anything for season 2 that we get more of this. I feel like they're kind of testing the waters here, and it has something to do with budget. But I can't speak for them. The infected in this episode seemed like a MacGuffin, whereas in the game, it's an obstacle and a threat. Yeah. To be fair, we stopped seeing as much infected at this point. Plus, we didn't get the mall scene where she was looking at right. And I'm okay. If they're going to take that out, then give us all of the DLC, right? If you're going to take out half of the DLC, then give us all of it. I don't know. I would have really liked a chase scene here. I would have really liked more infected. I would have really liked to have that feeling they made it. Oh my God, they didn't make it. But I think the most infected we saw was in Billstown in the game, where they're trying to get to the... Oh gosh. Yeah, that, I agree. I think that was insane. Sadly, I think the reviews about the back end feeling a tiny bit rushed is true. That keeps happening. Like, the problem is we went with that with like the previous episode and this episode. It's like the back end is like so rushed. It's like, what happened? You guys just like not time it right. We need a director. Yeah, a DVD's director's cut with 2-hour episodes, right? So we kind of get this here. So Ellie's struggling with this infected. Riley's like unconscious from getting hit. I know. I don't know. Okay. I can't speak medically on anything, but how quick people go unconscious from being knocked down really confuses me in a lot of shows. I feel like people go unconscious too easily, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I have no medical history or background. I have medical history, no medical background knowledge whatsoever. But like, I didn't like that. Riley went unconscious, and then Ellie's like wrestling with this infected, to which Riley stands up and in a sense still saves Ellie here, right? Like, so and this is where she gets bit. It was kind of hard for me to capture, but she's tangled up with him. And then there's this moment where like her hand kind of gets a little close to his mouth and she's pushing him. That's where she got bit. And then Ellie stabs him in the head with her switchblade, which I did like because later on when there's a few times where you've seen Ellie kind of like fiddling with the switchblade. And I feel like that's always her kind of thinking back on Riley because she remembers that moment. They had a budget. The 10 episodes had like 105 million. I wonder if they were like saving some of that money for the end. But see, I don't want to talk about the future stuff. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I feel like a lot of that budget went towards the bloater scene, like that bloater episode. I think they'll throw a whole bunch of infected right towards the end, like they did in the game. In the end, I'm trying to think of the last time you see without spoiling. When was the last time you see infected in the game? Because the end, they're not around. I don't know. I find it weird that later she asked Joel if it's hard to kill infected. No. Well, she said, is it hard killing them knowing that they used to be people? Maybe but yeah, I don't know. Maybe because she's thought about that, like after she killed him, like she killed this guy and then she's like thought back on that. Like, did I kill a person or whatever? I don't know. The Casey episode would have eaten a lot for sure. Yeah. Drew, that's so funny you mentioned that. I said it. I related this mall to Stranger Things too. The tunnel before the hospital. Right. Gosh, I hope so. I hope so. I feel like we haven't gotten enough stalkers. Like, we haven't really experienced what a stalker is like in this game or in this show. They're terrifying in the game. Like, because they took out the infected with Sam and like in the tunnels with Sam and Henry. They took out the infected. Like they took out. I don't know. I'm getting to a point where I'm like, I was defending you guys, but it was for hopes of more infected later, and I'm not getting it. So bring them on, please. The underpass. That's right. I hope so. I don't know though, because that's literally just a traveling point. You know, they might not even have that. I don't know. Anyways, this was really cool. I loved Bella's acting here. And this whole thing where it like keeps bleeding, perfect. Loved it. Right from the game. I thought her like rage and her screaming here. Good job, Bella. I loved it. I'm fine not dealing with stalkers. I don't know. The tunnel is it's gotta be, because I'm thinking about, yeah, I think that is important. Maybe we'll see him there. I hope so, because the tunnel is important. You're right. Because of flooding, right? Okay. Yeah. She did. So this was kind of cool. So you see this moment and she's like, no. And then it actually flashes back, finally, back to Joel, where you get this whole looting sequence from Ellie. So you find out that Riley's bit, which ultimately means, like, now we know, even if you didn't play the games, now we know, okay, well, Ellie's immune, so she's not dying. Riley, there's no chance that Riley's immune, right? So we know that Riley's dying. So now we know that Riley's dying, and then we go back to Joel. And then you get this realization that Ellie decides to make this decision that, nope, she's not doing this again. Nope, she remembers, like, it doesn't matter whether you get 2 minutes with somebody or 2 days or whatever, like, you make the most out of this moment. So she's going to make Joel live as long as she freaking can because she doesn't want to lose somebody again. And I like this. I like the looting sequence too. It just felt like when you're looting around in the game. But yeah, then it comes back. I keep hitting this microphone. I'm sorry. Hand fly zone. But then it goes back to her, like, smashing things, which is beautiful because in the game, like, this, I love this because it shows the difference between Riley and it shows the difference of Ellie. And it tells us that Ellie she lashes out hard. When things don't go her way, when something upsets her, you're not really reasoning with Ellie. She's going to act on it. Like, she's going to go a little crazy here for a second. And those moments of Ellie, I'm glad they kept because those are kind of some core personality traits of hers. Yeah, so Riley is allergic to zombies, whereas Ellie's not. Mike boop. Profanity. Oh yeah, sorry. Oh, my eyes. But yeah, so she's smashing everything up. And Riley is like, she's just like staring out in space. She doesn't get that anger, that like the uncontrolled rage. She's almost like to the point of she's accepted the fate. She's not happy about it, but she knows her fate. And she's like letting Ellie do her thing. And again, it just is super important for us to know how Ellie responds to when things don't go her way or when something upsets Ellie. Storm's version of Riley here after the bite is a good match to her demeanor in the DLC too. I really enjoyed the extra. I think Storm did actually a better job here than in the DLC because the whole time she's like fighting back tears here and they are like literally pouring out of her eyes, even though her voice is still trying to remain clear and calm. Like mentally she's clear and calm, but emotionally she's a wreck. And in the game, you didn't get those tears, and I actually thought this was better. Crash Bandicoot somewhere in the store. That's awesome. Yeah, she's already resigned. She's just like, yeah. But then this is what I wanted to point out too. So and you get our favorite lines. It's like, we've got two options, which is, do you guys like this? What did Ellie get at the beginning with Fedra? She got two options. And then what does she get now? Two options. So they keep doing these bookends on these shows. I really love them. I like finding them. I think they're really clever and they're obviously very intentional. Yeah, so really cool. So this I love. This was way closer in this than in the DLC. Like they're hugging, they're holding hands. Like it's so sad. It's so heartbreaking. But I like this in comparison to when they were first leaning up against these glass cabinets and they were like split apart. Hard to find such talented young actors who can do right. Like this is really, I couldn't act like this. There's no way. Like, I mean, I'm not an actor, but like, I mean, there's so much being said in the way they say something, their facial expressions, their tears, their like body language. It's just, there's a lot going on here in these. I mean, how old is Bella Ramsey? She's actually like 20 or something, isn't she? I don't know how old Storm is, but like they did a great job. I didn't catch the two options repeat. Very true. Yeah, I really like it. But yeah, so you get this moment here. And again, just like in the DLC, thank goodness we don't see the turn here. I have always wondered, I don't think I actually want the answer to this, but I've always wondered what happened to Riley. Did Ellie have to shoot her? Did the Fireflies come in and have to shoot her? Did she leave Riley there? Like, that would be so crazy. Could you imagine, like just like Sam, like you start to see them like kind of going mad or like just becoming different, but you're not experiencing that. And you'd be wondering why. And also like, dude, if I'm not turning, what do I even do? Like, what happened to Riley? And again, I don't know if I want to know the answer to that. I'm glad they didn't change that part in the DLC. For 1 or 2 lines earlier on, I was super worried they would show the full resolution to Riley. Yeah, I'm glad they left it out. I'd imagine Neil had a big say on keeping it that way. Agree. Storm is 19. Okay, see? But still, like, it's like, this is good acting just across the board, period. I don't care how old you are. But yeah, finding it in younger, like, it's really good. Really good. So then we get back to Joel. Good old Pedro, who had, like, what'd you guys say? Like 5 words in this entire episode. But it's sweet. So you look at I don't know if you can see it in the scene, but you can see the hand holding here. They're holding hands. And then the next scene, like, you got the hand holding. Really cute. And I think this is, Joel was already unintentionally starting to really, really care for Ellie. And then I think this of, like, somebody taking care of him is, like, that now he's flipped 100%. Like, before he was, like against his will, he's like, no, I don't want to like her. And then all of a sudden this happened. He's like, okay, no, I'm totally in. I'm jumping in. I love her. She's like my daughter. Like, and I think this is just did it. And I think that he showed that in just his eyes. Like, as he, like, looked up at her, he's like, she's not, he didn't even say anything, but she's not leaving. You know, like, it's huge deal. Neil wrote this episode. It feels like it. It's beautiful. Very good. And the single tear down his cheek at the start of the episode when Ellie is about to turn was very Oh, I didn't take, you know what? That's a good point. I didn't really take that as she's leaving. I just took that from immense pain. You know how, like, when you're, like, in so much pain, you tear up? But yeah, that's a good way to look at that too. I mean, it was Ellie's, she says it wasn't her first time shooting a human? Did she say that? It wasn't her first time shooting a human? When was that? So in the game, her first time shooting a human, her first time shooting a human was when she grabs the gun and saves Joel from the guy that's pushing his head underwater. And that, I'm pretty sure, was clearly, I think they made it clear that was her first human that she killed. Did she say? You have to remind me, BB. I mean, a few weeks passed between the bite and her meeting up with Joel. Neil has a beautifully twisted mind, and I'm living for it. Does she say that? This is not her first time shooting. When did she say that? Because when she shot the guy in the convenience store to save Joel, it seemed like it was a really big deal. When did she say it, though? Did she say it when she's... Oh, in part 2. Oh, in the game? In the show, Ellie says to Joel that she has shot a human before. Are you talking about when he's, like, telling her how to hold the gun? Does she say it then? But that doesn't really... okay. But then my question is that considered... Like, she wouldn't have shot Riley when Riley was still human. Like, she would have shot Riley when she was fully infected. Like, she would have waited. Because, right, every moment counts. So she would have waited to the last moment to shoot Riley. And if you're shooting Riley when she's infected, is she still human? I'm upset that we don't have Ellie having anything to remember her people by. No Firefly pet. Oh, no. Yeah. Well, she has the alcohol. No, that's a good point. We don't have any tangible items. Like, we didn't get Sarah's picture either. We didn't get Sarah's picture. We didn't get Sam's toy. We didn't get Riley's necklace. In the game, the guy that was drowning Joel was her first kill. I don't know if I would consider, even if she did have to shoot Riley, I don't think I would have considered that a human. because she would have waited till Riley turned. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to think of another instance where she, I don't know. Riley would have started to be in great pain. Sam didn't seem like he was in great pain. Why do you... Maybe. You'd have to make an additional leap in logic by making an assumption Ellie agreed to shoot Riley before turn off screen. See, this is another one of those things. And I think they do this intentionally, and I'm totally here for it. And I'm not trying to, like, get an exact answer, but I love these conversations. What happened? Like, what the heck happened? Like, we can go through all these scenarios. And it's like, well, would that have counted as a human? And she has those questions too. And like Sam does too. Are they still humans in there? Are they just infected? Are they monster? Like, these are the questions you would be asking yourself as a human being. Like, what did I do? Am I a murderer? Like, it's really good, deep, complex conversations to have. Yeah, in episode 4, when Joel asks her if she's okay, she says it wasn't the first time. She doesn't want to talk about it. You're right. All right. That's most likely her then, because then we pretty much see Ellie almost immediately afterwards with Marlene. Right. Maybe she doesn't want to ever refer to Riley as infected either. Like, in her mind, like, you know, like when you, like, there's been lots of zombie movies like this too, but when your loved one turns or something, they're different than all the other zombies, right? That's your loved one. Like, that's a person. Whereas everybody else you're trying to murder. So it could have been like that mentality too, that even though if Riley did change, you'd still consider killing her, taking a human life. Riley may more count as a human, but I believe they are saying in the show that Ellie did shoot her, whether infected or not. God, it's awful. They did make runners in the show not cry or whimper. That's true. I always remember the sound that made... Oh, my gosh. I remember asking that during my playthrough because I hated it. Because, like, you know, when they're, like, when they're, like, doing their own thing and you haven't been spotted yet, you hear that. And I hated it. I was like, are they crying? And then I think it was Ms. It was Ms. or... Yeah, I want to say it was Ms. She was like, they are absolutely crying because there's still a little bit of human left in them and they have no control over their body. And they're, like, crying because of the state they're in. And I was like, that was a fact I did not want to know. Thank you. But anyways, that's it. She sews up Joel here. She didn't have to go look for a med kit, which is, you know, that's fine. But yeah, so what I'm learning from this series is I really love the extra story we get and the extra information we're giving. I loved the flashbacks from the 60s. I love the different locations. I love Bill and Frank's story. I love the Fedra info where they're more humanized here. Now, this episode was a lot different than the other where we get those nods to the game where it's like, oh, that was straight from the game. But then we kind of move off that path again. This was more like, ooh, we went off the path again, but here's everything from the game. So it was almost an opposite of what we've experienced before. And I can tell you, while I did enjoy this episode because of that, and I really enjoyed the acting, I would say that I actually enjoy more when this show is different from the game and we get those little like those little reminders like, hey, this part's from the game. So far, that's what I've noticed. I enjoy the way the other episodes have worked. And I am missing the infected. I feel like it's too long now. It's too long, and stop rushing through all the exciting parts. Like Joel being impaled and like the escort of Joel and the running with Riley. Like I bet you season 2 they're going to have a better budget and they'll be able to include a lot of things that they might not have thought they could have included in this. It's the abridged version of the game. The show doesn't replicate the game. It's an abridged version, but it's also like, hey, here's some bonus material. So it's what I can say though, here's what I think. Playing the game and watching the show work very well together. But I would think, and playing the game is fine on its own. But I think if you just watch the show, I feel like you won't fall in love as much as everybody else did. What was my favorite part of the episode? My favorite part of this episode was probably the carousel scene. Maybe the photo booth. Both of them are really good. I like them both. Came from a bad experience from a 7-Eleven. Yeah, like they probably went in there to go like search for something, or they snuck out and they probably ran into something. But like what? Or did they not run into something and it was from a stupid accident, like somebody tripped and fell on some glass or something dumb, right? Like I think that story is funny, and I think it's kind of cute how that story is still just between them. Maybe the escalator moment. The escalator moment was pretty cute too. I like that part. It's hard to pick. All right, guys, but that's it. That was this one. So thank you, as always, for chatting with me about it. We get David next week, and then I guess the hospital the week after that. So I don't know. Maybe the last episode is going to be like a 2-hour long episode. That would be kind of nice, right? Like if we they kind of tricked us to thinking it was going to be 45 minutes to an hour, and the last one was like a big... How long was the first episode in this? It was longer than normal, wasn't it? Like I think episode 1 was almost like an hour and a half, wasn't it? Maybe we'll get one of those at the end, because that would kind of be needed in my opinion. We'll see. Lots of smile moments, for sure. I hope you have a good day too. Yes, guys, thanks as always. Thanks for joining. Thanks for talking. See, it was an hour and a half. Yeah, maybe we'll get, maybe they'll bookend. They bookend everything else. Maybe they'll do that with the series. Long episode to begin with, long episode at the end. That'd be nice. But hopefully the lack of infected in these last couple ones will put some of that budget money towards the next episodes. Yeah. All right, guys, you guys have a wonderful day, okay? I will see you tomorrow for some Spider-Man. All right, I'm going to say bye, and then I'll wait, because apparently I get cut off a lot. So goodbye. And now I'm just going to stare.